You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. I'm your host, Steph. It's a especially joyous Victory Monday for all of us today, and joining me to talk all about it is Weston Smith. Weston, how you doing, man?
I'm excited to be here. Not that I'm not every week, but like yesterday was such a roller coaster of emotions. To attend this conversation with a smile on my face didn't seem real. I don't know, 24 hours ago, right? Like it didn't even seem like I was contemplating my excuse messages to you already. Like, Steph, I just don't even know if I can get on. I'm sorry, but
You're like, I don't feel well. I came down with something.
yeah. Oh, stomach bug. Blame the kids. They must have brought something home from school. But no, I am damn excited to be here and have this conversation today.
Well, I mean, the reason we're excited is because the 49ers had us on a roller coaster yesterday, all throughout that game. And man, they finished it and they won the game in dramatic fashion. I mean, Weston, like, what were your thoughts going through, going through your head as the game was going on? Were you panicked? Because I know in my head, I was like, I was fully prepared for them to lose. I was like, you know what? At the end of the day, it's just football. This isn't going to dictate how I live my life. I'm not going to let it get me down. I'm just going to get these jokes off on Twitter. And, I'm going to laugh through the pain like I always do as a 49ers fan. This sucks, though. all of the stages of grief, right? You just go through them all. So where in the stages of grief were you when things started to turn around?
So I felt like you every single one of those stages ad nauseum. If you didn't have a moment during this game where doubt set in, then you are one of the blind faithful. And I don't say that as a negative thing. I say that as like, I wish I can watch the game under your lenses, because if you follow this team the way we follow this team and the way we talk about this team, 17 points just seemed insurmountable and nothing was happening. And I was the worst of fans yesterday, Steph. I will not lie. I was throwing my hat, MFing everything. And then I, like you, had a come to Jesus moment where it was just, hey, dude, your children are watching you behave like a child right now. Like, pull it together. And then it just turned to sadness. And my wife, bless her, Steph, she was the champ yesterday in this household, right? Like doing every superstition that we have, she's executing flawlessly and she is not giving up hope. And I'm just like pouting around, right? And she's like, what's the matter with you? And I'm like, you don't understand. Like, this is now the 29th consecutive year of disappointment from the team. And like, we should be really grateful. It was a really awesome, fun season, a lot of awesome storylines, content that just created itself all year. But then for me, it was the turning point for me was the opening drive of the second half. Even though you won 7 there, you still got points, right? So you still stopped the bleeding a little bit. And then the turning point of this game, which we'll talk about, where confidence immediately flushed back into me, was on that first 4th down attempt. That was a drop pass. I don't care how you want to cut it, right? By Josh Reynolds. It was just like, we talk about all the time, like momentum is a funny thing in the NFL and it swings like a pendulum. And it just felt like it was about to swing fully. And then all of a sudden 14 feels way different than 17. Right. And that's the moment where I was like, oh, I can believe again, instead of locking myself in the bathroom, pretending I'm going to the bathroom so I can cry and not do it in front of my children.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I was very quiet at one point in the game. I mean, I was almost embarrassed. Like, I didn't even want my girlfriend to look up at the screen to see how badly we were losing, because I didn't want her to make a comment or anything. I was just like, I couldn't take it. I had so many texts that I was getting from people saying, like, it's not looking too good. Is it? Like, I don't know why, like, people feel compelled to, like, text me especially when the 49ers are doing bad. It's not because they want the 49ers to do bad, but they're like, Steph, what's happening? What's going on? And then I had a couple of friends as well who also were in that superstitious mode and were like, I changed my socks. I was wearing blue socks. I changed them. They started winning after that. All the things. So yeah, if you were one of those people, thank you, because the good juju, I was on the 49ers side, especially in that second half. I think the turning point for me, Weston, was the fumble.
Yeah.
Because that was after they got if I'm not mistaken, I think it happened after the fourth down stop, right? Or no?
Yes, because
No.
after the fourth down stop, they went and scored, kicked off, and on the first play was the fumble.
Yeah, so that to me was huge. And that's how they were able to get within like 7 points of the Lions, and I couldn't even believe it when that happened. And you saw Brock Purdy turn on some wheels on that drive after that to get him right in the red zone. This was an incredible game, and it's crazy because just the week prior, like, we saw this team come back from behind against the Packers, and we were thinking how big that was. Like, we hadn't seen that from this team, and I didn't think we would see it again the next week and not 17 points down. I just didn't think the team was capable of that. You kind of mentioned earlier, Weston, that um like it felt insurmountable, right?
Yeah.
And I think because we were kind of used to that. We were used to 10 points or what, however many points being insurmountable for this team. But at the end of the day, I mean, they came through, and I do feel like the difference this time around is Brock Purdy. It's not all Brock Purdy, but he's a huge part of it.
He's a tremendous part of it. I think when you think of like the best in the league right now at this, playing from behind, and you think of our opponent in 2 weeks, Patrick Mahomes, and like what he's able to do. And it's not just Patrick, it's the entire team, right? It takes an entire team to spurn a comeback, and it also takes another team to give up the lead, right? So like there's a culmination of events here, but everybody starts playing really, really well because you have belief in that guy, right? Like, if I do my job, we get our stop, we get the ball back, I actually believe he's going to put us in position to score and close the gap. And I don't know if they've ever actually believed that before, like, especially like this core.
Sure.
So, and I think that bolsters their confidence, bolsters his confidence. And man, he is one little cocky SOB in like the best of ways, right? Like, I mean, the galled on him to like make some of these throws or attempt these throws. And listen, the luck. Did we get fortunate in this game as part of the comeback? Like, you can argue all day, did the 49ers win or did the Lions lose? Well, I'd argue it's both. It takes both to have a comeback like that, and it takes a good team to take advantage of the opportunities. But to your point, Steph, of like feeling insurmountable, there's a reason why most teams, like, you see, this is the largest comeback in the NFC Championship game since the 49ers did it in 2012 against the Atlanta Falcons, right? Or technically 2013, but the 12 season. It's because this is the playoffs, and you're playing a really good team who got here because they don't also give up leads and shoot themselves in the foot, right? Like, especially in the NFC Championship. So that, that's where the doubt crept in. But everybody just started believing. Like, adjustments were made, defense was playing. You saw Gipson talk about it afterwards, like, hey, all of a sudden we were able to make plays. I don't know why that wasn't the defensive game plan in the first half, in some of these other games. But hey, glad they turned it on when they did. But again, you play with that level of confidence when you're confident in your counterparts as well, right? Like, hey, if I do my job defensively, they're going to do their job offensively. I get a score here, I'm going to trust that these guys are going to go 3 and out or turn the ball over and give it right back to us, and build momentum that way. But yeah, at the center of it, as he should be, is Brock, because he's been at the center of all the naysayers of the 49ers and knocking him. So why shouldn't he be the lightning rod for the success as well?
Yeah, the Lions at one point, per ESPN Analytics, had a 91.5% chance of winning this game. That was their win probability at one point. 91.5%. That was in the third quarter. I keep going back to the fact that the Lions kept trying to put the finishing dagger into the 49ers and they just couldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, 17 points is not enough to call that a dagger, not in the first half. And you had Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, it was Gardner-Johnson who was waving by at fans before halftime. I mean, that's just silly. And in my opinion, that shows the Lions' inexperience, right? I mean, this is the playoffs. Do you think a team as good as the 49ers, the number 1 seed, is just going to go down that easy? Come on, be serious for a second. But, Weston, you also brought up the defense, and I think the defense is part of the big reason they got in the hole that they did. Also, you can point to, Brock Purdy's interception. When I rewatched the game, I realized that was a big turning point for the game, definitely swinging towards the Lions' favor in the first half because it kind of snowballed. But the 49ers' run defense was a huge issue in this game, and they really couldn't stop it. And I think you could even have the conversation even now, well, did the Lions just stop running, or did the 49ers actually stop the run in the second half? What was going through your head when you were watching them attempt to tackle Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery? I mean, they just could not do it, right?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I thought the Lions, in running the ball really well, is their linemen were filling gaps, right? They just hit all of their responsibilities. They wiped the defensive line right out of the equation, and it left Fred and Dre trying to hawk these guys down and being a half a second too late to the hole or whatever, reaching with arms and not getting your body across. And it's the NFL; those guys are going to run through it all day long. But it was frustrating because you were watching it they're going to score. They don't even have to throw the football. They're going to score on every single possession. That's literally what it felt like. And I agree with you. I definitely, and I admire this, definitely think that the Lions were trying to step on the 49ers' throats throughout the second half and take advantage of those opportunities, evident by, you left going for those fourth downs. You were within field goal range, right? That wasn't go for it on fourth down or punt, right? So you leaving points that could either have tied this game or won this game and changed the game plan for the 49ers, et cetera, but they were going for the kill. And like I said, I admire that tremendously because I think we've lacked that as a team for an extended period of time of going for the kill. We usually just get the kill early, and just keep riding it. That's how it's looked. But not stepping on the throat. And of course the Lions want to do that, make a statement, be we're for real. Whoever we play in the next 2 weeks, you have to take us seriously. Look what we did to this team. Right. And that's what got them here. So there's not a player on that team, a coach on that team who's hindsight's 2020, but they're not second guessing themselves. That's what we do. Right. But it felt like in doing that, they were giving us the opportunity, almost giving the game back. Right. And you mentioned, did they stop running? I think it's a combination of both. I think they were looking for the kill. They've always been a pass-happy offense to begin with, right? This running game is newly found in this process. But I also think adjustments were made that typically in the NFL, right, you go to the line with 2 plays, right? You have 2 plays, and based on what you see, it's usually a run or a pass, and then based on what you see is what's going to dictate it. And I think they just Jared Goff saw something a little bit different. Maybe it was alignments, maybe it was splits, maybe it was something that made him second guess that run's not there, right? So let's stick with the pass that was called in the huddle. I don't know. I literally have not seen any media today, and which is really disappointing, by the way, because that's all I wanted to do today. But the day did not dictate that. So I don't know if this has been talked about. That's just my guess, is they saw something that looked a little bit different and saw something that made them confident that they were going to they did enough on the ground. Maybe they can do it through the air to put the game away.
Yeah, going back to the discussion of, Dan Campbell being aggressive and wanting to go for the kill, but ultimately not. Kyle Shanahan was asked about, the aggressiveness of Dan Campbell early in the week. And I mean, he kind of said sometimes those opportunities could end up helping the other team, basically, is what he said. And we saw that play out in this game. On the other hand, you have Kyle Shanahan, who's a little, more conservative, and I mean, he went for a field goal early in the game. Even I think at that point the game was it 7-0 when he went for that field goal that was missed. So
Yep.
I don't fault him for like not panicking at that point. It's very early in the game, but going for the field goal at that point, you miss the field goal. So even Kyle's conservativeness didn't help him in this game. So I came away from it like not even really knowing, okay, what's the right approach? Ideally, maybe it's somewhere in the middle of both of those guys, right? Like over aggressiveness versus like conservative, maybe choose your spots, right? Um, but yeah, I thought it was interesting that we did see how that ended up hurting the Lions. But I will say, like, the only reason that the media is maybe questioning it today is because it didn't work. If it worked, he'd be a genius and like all these things, right? So that's how it goes for every coach in the league. You could say the same thing for Kyle's conservativeness too. So I mean,
Yeah.
that's just how the media works and how people's opinions work. But I feel like there were certain performances in the second half that we got to discuss, especially because I don't think there was anything good in the first half, quite honestly, at least not enough to nominate here. But this is the 49K Player of the Week show after all, and we do nominate players who had some good games that deserve to be 49K Player of the Week. So, Weston, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, let's get right into it. It's Brock Purdy, right? I mean, we're going to talk about other names, but how is it not?
You took mine.
I'm sorry. Steph, would you like to go first?
I'm joshing with you.
It's how is it not Brock in the sense? So 20 of 31, 267, averaging just under 9 per. Yes, he had the TD. Yes, he had a pick. This is all about, like you said, nobody played well in the first half, right? Like on either side of the ball, I would argue. I saw this today, and we're talking about like, hey, this was almost a second half of the game award that somebody's going to walk away with today. Saw this stat. It was shared out on Twitter. I actually saw it just about an hour ago, maybe. In the second half, Brock Purdy threw for 150 yards, rushed for 45 yards, completed 80% of his passage, averaged 10 plus yards per rush, had 0 turnovers. No other NFL quarterback in the last 30 years has done all of that in a single half, regular or post season. Period. Stop. End of argument. Like, wow. Like we said, he was gifted the opportunity to lead this comeback, and he took full advantage of it. I recorded every one of the naysayers like shows today, and this is all I'm going to do before I go to bed is watch them backtrack some of this. But I can't wait because you already know it's going to be all pulled back, and all of a sudden it's going to be praise Brock Purdy. Yep. And good. You know what? We talked about it last week. Like, why doesn't he get his flowers? And if that's what it took to get it, the only one I saw today was Sherman. And my God, does Unc love Brock Purdy? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, he gushes over him. And Sherman was one of those guys. Forget this is his media role now. When he spoke, you always listened. You listened because you hated him, but you knew he was right. And you knew he was educated about the opinion. And now you listen to him because he supports your team like no other, like you can't even imagine. Yep. And he's right from a fresh player's lens. So when he speaks, I'm sorry, I take it almost as gospel because he's not doing it to be right? Like he's just telling you what he sees and what he knows. And he gushed over the performance yesterday and wouldn't let anybody tell him otherwise. And I don't know. It's like, Steph, how do you argue it? Like he had a tremendous second half of that football game.
Yeah, guys like Sherman, guys like Brian Boldy, guys like Greg Cosell. I mean, there's Kurt Warner. There's so many guys who have been behind Brock Purdy this entire season and have combated all of this game manager talk, all of this like disrespect of Purdy. I respect the hell out of those guys because, I mean, at one point in the season, it's just seemed like it was the cool thing to do to hate on Brock, even up till last week. So, they stood tall for Brock, especially Sherman. And he was in the building, yesterday.
Yep.
He filmed his show right at Levi's Stadium. So, it's cool to see Sherm behind Brock, but who wouldn't, right? I mean, I find it so difficult to see people like truly watch Brock Purdy and still believe that he's not it, or like he doesn't have something in it factor, like ice in his veins, whatever you want to call it, whatever cliche you want to use. He has something that's intangible that like not every player has. I don't think people understand that. It's not just about the stats he was putting up. It's not just about like the great team that's around him. Even outside of all of that, he has something. I don't know what it is. I don't. We can't put our finger on it, but we just know when we see it. And that's why when people don't believe in Brock Purdy, I simply know that they haven't seen him. Like they're not watching him. Like I just don't believe it because we've been seeing it for like a season and a half now. So I think we kind of know what the deal is with Brock.
And we didn't even talk about his ground game. Did you see homeboy running? My goodness.
He was scooting.
I was like, what? Like, you remember his brother had that run at Nebraska earlier this year, like a little later in the season.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, I wish Brock had wheels like that. You know what I mean? Like his brother clearly has the gift of speed from the Purdy family. But he was moving and he hit Debo harder than I think Debo got hit all game. And Debo would probably tell you that. And, Debo got in the way of Purdy running one in for a touchdown when all is said and done. I just, it's hard to just look at that game and say, wow, that's what a game manager does. You know what I mean? Like it's just everything. Off script plays. I mean, the throw to Juwan that Juwan makes a fantastic catch on, of course. The throw to Juszczyk on the sideline after breaking out of the pocket. And it takes two, right? Like they got to come down with it. They got to be in the right position. But, this is what they applaud Lamar for and Patrick for. Guys who can just scramble around and extend the play 6, 7, 8 seconds. And that's what gets that wide receiver open. And they get MVP celebrated for it, right? Like, tell me how what you just witnessed on national television from Brock Purdy is any different. I know it's not 4.2 speed like when Lamar takes off, but it's faster than Mahomes when Mahomes takes off. It's just, how is he not 49K player of the week? We'll talk about some other people, but he's.
I think we like kind of made our decision already.
I think we just got to.
Go ahead and vote. The votes, but that's kind of our job at the same time. We're trying to convince you. So just really quickly, because you talking about Purdy scrambling reminded me of this quote from George Kittle talking about his scrambling. I'm just going to share it really quick here.
Those couple scrambles and get 2 21-yard runs.
Sick.
What's your view of those? What kind of spark does that
do it more? What are we doing? Just don't get hit. Like, scramble, maybe tuck the ball a little bit faster, but like he scampers. I think that's the best way to describe it. He scampers. Like you're one of those little water dragons run across the water. Like that's what I envision every time I run with the football.
He scampers. That's such a good word. Yeah, it's not like
called him a water dragon.
Like he's obviously not the most like athletic guy, but he looks so quick when he just decides to, hit that gear and run. That's such a water dragon. I know exactly what he was talking about when he said that. Say no more. Yes, that is exactly what Brock Purdy looks like when he scrambles. But yeah, I mean, that was just part of Purdy putting the team on his back in those moments. And in the second half, I mean, he talked about the stats, that a quarterback hadn't done in like the last 30 years. Well, in the second half, he was 13 of 16, 174 yards, a touchdown, passer rating of 132.8. I mean, he was everything for the team in that second half, and he put the team on his back. for last 2 weeks, he's done that. I mean, I think I feel so good about this team, about Brock going into the Super Bowl just because of what he's shown us these last 2 weeks. Like, he has that it factor that if he has to go into a game-winning drive, if he's down 10 to the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl, I think Brock can orchestrate a comeback. Like, we've seen enough. I have seen enough. So yeah, Brock Purdy definitely deserved this nomination this week. And like we said, he's probably going to be the one to take it this time.
I don't know. After seeing Kittle's press conference there, and I had not seen that yet. I mean, God, that might get you in for 49K player of the week just based on that description and wearing the Claire t-shirt. Like, he's a national treasure.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we appreciate George Kittle as much as we really should, because one day he's going to be gone and you're going to be like, tight end position's so boring. Like, we got Charlie Warner. Oh yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, he's great. All right, Steph, you could beat Brock Purdy's nomination. You gave me the easy one here. You can do it.
I'm going to go with the guy who I also felt like carried the team in moments. And you talk about him almost every week, right? Because we sometimes forget how good he is and how valuable he is to this team. It's no wonder that both Brock Purdy and this next guy I'm about to mention are most valuable player finalists for this team, Christian McCaffrey. I mean, 20 carries, 90 yards, 2 touchdowns, light work. 42 yards through catches as well. I mean, similar to Brock, there's just I know like the stat line doesn't exactly pop out as being like one of McCaffrey's best, but if you watch this game, how it unfolded, how there were moments where the team was just handing it to him and he put the team on his back at times as well. He does that, like, because he has an it factor as well. There's something that drives that man more than I think I've seen any other player really have. And he'll just will himself to extra yards, to a first down, to the defender like slipping, not even being able to get him, to what is it called? The stiff arm on Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I mean, that's just McCaffrey, man. He'll do that week in and week out, and we've just become so accustomed to it, right? That sometimes we just forget. But I think Christian McCaffrey had as big of a hand in this win as Brock Purdy did, quite honestly.
Yeah, you could. I know we just were celebrating Brock, but you could easily justify this for Christian McCaffrey. I saw a tweet after the game. I don't even look at my phone during the game because I can't stomach the text messages and going through Twitter and seeing the irrational.
Do not disturb.
Yeah, it just like makes me like, I literally just like hand my phone to my son. I'm like, go lose it in the house somewhere. So I can't see it. But I saw a tweet afterwards, and I think it was Stats actually that tweeted this about McCaffrey during the game. He had tweeted it about how he's just always squeezing the most out of the play, right? Like, and I think that is a really accurate description of what he does in so many ways. He squeezes through the block. He always is falling forward. He gets contacted behind the line, but still makes that a 2-yard game, right? So 2nd and 8 is drastically different than 2nd and 10. I know it only sounds like 2 yards, but that gets you in a position to be 3rd and shorter versus 3rd and long and being behind the chains and all those stuffs. And I just thought that was a really accurate description for what he does. And yesterday was the quintessential example of that, because there wasn't the home run ball, right, that he ran for. It was just 4.5 yards a carry, grinding it out. And he gets in, he gets those chunks, and he gets the significant, like in the most significant times.
Yeah.
Like that. The biggest run was that one, I think, on when he stiffed armed Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, and that was that was an opportune moment in the game, right? Like a big swing in field position. But here's why Christian McCaffrey should win 49K Player of the Week. And I apologize, Mr. McCaffrey. I was not familiar with your trash talk game until this game where I don't know if you saw this. I'm sure you did on national television. They showed him mouth. I'll politely say he called somebody a kitty cat, and he was upset about something. And I was like, oh, I knew this man played hard. I knew he played with a chip on his shoulder, but I didn't realize he plays angry too, right? Like, and that's just a Christian McCaffrey that like I want to see. I want to see more of that. I want to see more of that word flying around on the football field, and just because I feels like somebody stirred something in him. And it was right after, it was only like a 4-yard gain, but he ran right over the dude. Right. And he got up and the camera was right there and like crystal clear. You saw him mouth that. And I was like, all right, now we're now, and they were like, we were losing significantly at that point, right? But it was just like the motive, like just an extra layer of motivation. And I knew he was a dog, but I didn't know he had that dog in him. And I was just like, all right, Christian, I see you. Bring that to the Super Bowl. Let's go.
I mean, there's a lot of players say like, give it all you have. When Christian McCaffrey does, like I 100% think that is Christian McCaffrey's everything, what he puts out on the field. He really does it. So always appreciate it. And yeah, I mean, he is a tough son of a gun out there. Have you noticed? So like this is just something I've noticed watching Christian McCaffrey. Like he has like a game face, and it involves like in my mind Christian Bale Batman. He and I pulled it up because I was like, this is what to me, this is what Christian McCaffrey looks like when he's running. Like if you pay attention now, you guys are like, what the fuck is she talking about? But pay attention and you will see this exact face from Christian when he's running the football, when he's playing the game, even when he's on the sideline, he'll make like this face with his mouth. He's in a different mode. He's in his Batman era when he's out there. So yeah, Christian McCaffrey definitely helping save the day for this team. But yeah, that'd be my nomination that I think like, could be up there with Brock. But like there's also a couple of others. Did you have any others, Weston?
Yeah, I'm staying offense. I mean, I know the defense did their thing in the second half, but there still just wasn't like a standout, in my opinion. Maybe you have somebody that you're going to nominate. Trent Williams. Again, another one that we just like overlook, but a clean sheet, like all around from him. He was the highest graded offensive player on the team, according to PFF. He had an 87.9 run block PFF grade, and he had an 88.9 pass block. So he had 66 total snaps, 0 pressure, 0 hurry, 0 hits, 0 sacks. A real clean sheet from Trent. And again, another one that contributes way so much, but doesn't just get talked about enough because he doesn't appear in statistical categories that are tracked in a box score, right? So that gets overlooked, but this is a guy we didn't know if he'd return next year. We got all hyped up that he said he wants to come back and he gets to go to his first Super Bowl. And he's just been a consummate professional on this team. He's always had the back of his quarterback, his running back, the relationship that he has with Debo, leading him out the tunnel. Like he is just I'm happy for him that he now gets to experience the next 2 weeks, especially media week and like the week leading up, because he's going to have a lot of fun with that. And he's just really deserving of it in his career. But I think yesterday's game and the biggest stages just solidified because, our offensive line is shaky at best, right? And he is the anchor, and he played anchor football, clean sheet yesterday. Like, how do you ignore that?
And he did have Hutchinson to his side
a
number of times, and he handled that. Yeah, like Trent Williams, I hate that it's so hard to quantify like offensive line play. And it's just one of those things you're not going to notice. They could have the perfect game and like you won't notice them because like not being noticed is good for offensive linemen. But we can nominate Trent Williams every single week because he's just that good and that consistent. And so it's a shame that he doesn't get nominated every single week. So I'm glad you brought him up because yeah, he definitely kept Brock Purdy clean, especially in the second half. I think the offensive line as a whole did a better job in the second half, keeping Brock Purdy upright. So definitely got to give that big man credit. I'm so happy for him that he's going to be going into the Super Bowl. Definitely a player that deserves it. So hopefully the 49ers get it for him. We know he will be doing his best for the Super Bowl. I'm going to say this is my last nominee here. And I have the one and only defensive player that I would want to nominate for this week, because it wasn't a great performance for for the defense, but I think this player played the best out of all of the defense, right? So I wanted to spread the wealth a little bit. Nick Bosa. He had 2 sacks in this game. I felt like they came at big moments. And there were a couple times where even just Bosa getting close to Goff, you can see that Goff like rushed the throw, and it falling complete or something like that. And he was PFF's highest graded defender for the team. He had 8 pressures, which is not like, his best game. I don't think it was anyone's best game on the defensive side. But I felt like Nick Bosa, did kind of put the team on his back in some moments, and you kind of need that. I think it was Eric Armstead or one of the defensive players, posted something about, Nick having like a good game and acknowledging that like he put the team on his back. So yeah, I think that'll go a long way. He should lead by example, right? Like Chase Young on the other side, Randy Gregory on the other side. Those guys could stand to learn a couple things from Nick Bosa. But he had 2 quarterback hits as well, 2 tackles, 3 run stops. So yeah, I nominate Nick Bosa.
Yeah, I thought it's funny because Nick himself would admit to, like, say, and has been saying it's been a struggle to get home. And you and I have talked about it. This comment is elite, by the way. I'll be tuning in for that when it comes out, Steph. But it's been a struggle. And we talked about how it was significantly important that they got home this week. And he was the only one to get home in terms of registering a sack. And I knew it was all business because you didn't even see or at least
True.
I didn't see it, celebration.
I didn't even think of that.
And I was like, he's not playing, right? Because the first one came, they were behind, and evident of like almost I need to lead by example. Like, how do I expect these guys to play well? And that's the stuff that your teammates, we talked about it with like, Brock, like building confidence, right? Like, hey, if we're down 17 points, but our best defensive player is still out there flying around, trying to make plays, trying to make a difference, like, damn it, well, so should I, right? You would think that that's the mentality it breeds. And yeah, 8 pressures is not his most, but it's certainly far from his least, right? I think that's a highly productive game, and agree with you. One of the 4th downs that we talked about, the first one that they went for, I mean, Bosa beat his man, got there. The ball just was designed to come out quickly, but I absolutely think it hindered the throw and didn't allow Goff to fully set and throw it. It was just about quick release. And yes, all that stuff influences. But the most important thing is like, God, you really want Nick Bosa playing his best ball when you get to the Super Bowl, right? And maybe this is a step towards. I can't help but think about the 2019 matchup against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, where I thought he played one of the best defensive games I've ever seen. He just got held all game long that nobody wanted to throw a flag. Like, so hopefully this builds towards that for Nick.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of like haunting memories we have of seeing our team lose in that 2019 Super Bowl. One of them, Debo, one of them, Kittle, the other for me is Nick Bosa, crying on the bench afterwards. So I think like all those guys, they're going to take that pain that they felt in that 2019 game and really channel it towards preparing for this week and, putting their best foot forward in that game, or at least I would hope. I mean, that, you gotta lead by example, and you gotta, act and not just talk about it. You got to actually, put it out on the field. So, yeah, Nick Bosa, I think, was starting to do that. Yeah, the playoffs, the second half of the season, maybe a little disappointing for him. maybe even the whole season. Disappointing for Nick. But if they win the Super Bowl and he has a hand in that, none of that really matters.
Not even, not
None of
even a
that
little
matters.
bit, especially after he just signed that big fat paycheck coming into the season anyway, We always see this. You see this across the league everywhere. Like paid, little bit of dip. It's always hard to replicate the previous season, right? Like think about Debo 2021 Debo versus 2022 Debo. 2022 Debo was really not bad. It just wasn't 2021 Debo, which was like something we've never even seen before across the league. And that's kind of what Nick's performance was last year as Defensive Player of the Year. Like he was an animal. But hopefully it's turning on at the right time.
Someone in the comments thinks you look like Tony Hawk. So have you heard that before, Weston?
Recently, yes. This is not surprising. I don't see it myself. I grew up in the 80s and 90s. I'm well aware of who Tony Hawk is, owned his video games, played them, but I guess there's some resemblance. I can tell you where we look nothing like each other, and that's our bank accounts. His fiscal situation is far different than mine, which is all well and good, but I guess it could be worse, right? In terms of who they might be able to compare me to.
I could see it. I could see it. I mean, now that it was mentioned, it's like,
right. So let's do this.
Own it.
Y'all go tell your friends that Tony Hawk is a 49er fan. He jumps on this podcast every Monday after the games. And let's grow the following that way, Steph. We'll lure him in with fake Tony Hawk.
Isn't there like a video of someone going up to Tony Hawk and being like, hey, has anyone told you look like Tony Hawk?
Yes, you look like Tony Hawk.
Oh God,
I'll take it as a compliment. I'll take it as a compliment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he still looks young in his age, man. Own it.
We're ugly guys. I don't know what it is. It's fine. We got good personalities,
Oh my God, Weston, do you have any other nominee?
No.
He's like, no, that's enough for me.
Maybe like some flowers, nothing.
Yeah, no, let's do it. I did have an honorable mention for this game. For me, it's Deshaun Gipson. And I want to preface it by just saying he would have probably been nominated had he had a better first half. But the first half, wasn't great, as it wasn't for a lot of guys, right, on that defense. But that forced fumble flipped this game on its head. Huge swing of momentum, points, everything else you can think of that a fumble could do for a team. He also had a couple pass breakups, one in the third quarter on Sam Laporta. That was big. So, got to give some flowers to him for finishing strong, even though it wasn't a hot start for him.
I thought he put together a real solid second half. Again, like everybody else, the first half was just tough sledding. Obviously big plays that show up in the stat column and change the game. But I think what was most impressive was the accountability after the game. Where you see a lot of his like interviews and quotes where he's feeling like, hey, he admitted like doubt, crept in even as a player. And I think it takes a big individual to admit that in a sport where you're supposed to have no fear and never flinch and whatever. And then if maybe it just let him play, a little loose, like, and go out there and just trust his instincts and go. And, that's, if I had to define the first half on defense, everybody just looks stiff, you know what I mean? And then the second half, it just looked a little bit more fluid, a little bit more loose. But yeah, I mean, this game is totally different if Deshaun doesn't lay the wood on Laporta and force him to drop that. I believe that was put it into third and long, or might have actually forced them to punt. Because I think the next play was that punt that like landed on the 1 yard line, but still found its way into the end zone, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. And then the forced fumble, like those are two significant plays in this game that he single-handedly is a part of. So yeah, awesome game.
Weston, apparently you're also resembling Kyle Shanahan tonight. I mean, I kind of see it after, Christian in the comments pointed it out. I mean, you got the hat, you got like Kyle has worn the white, long sleeve zip, quarter zip.
I've been known to have
headphones. You got the headset. You just need the playbook, man.
Now I just need to be yelling at somebody or some wide receiver to put in my doghouse.
Halloween. Halloween. Think about it. I'm just saying.
I've been known to have a little swag, Steph. Don't let this old guy fool you. You know,
Hey.
I dressed my best for the podcast, but damn, everybody's coming at me from all angles tonight. So glad I joined.
It's a compliment. I think they're compliments.
I'll take them.
know?
I'll take them all day.
Did you have any flowers to give out?
I did. It'll be collective to the remainder of the receiver room, and by that I mean Debo and Ayuk. I mean, listen, Ayuk, that catch, my goodness, right? And like my
Crazy.
goodness. That's just a good player making a play. That's all it is, right? Like never giving up on a play. Love that Brock aired it out. Just aggressiveness, right? Like, hey, listen, in the NFL, one-on-one, that's actually open, right? Like the wide receiver always has the advantage. Evidenced by like, look what happened when it could have gone wrong, went right. Luck favors the prepared and those in the right position. But Ayuk, throughout the playoffs, even in this game, every catch is a first down. It's a touchdown. It's just big plays, big moments. Hard to ignore that. I know he didn't go over 100 yards or have like 10 or 12 receptions or anything like that, but doesn't limited his clutch factor in any capacity because he's big time during the game. And Debo, the return of Debo, obviously it's just a different team physicality wise. Like, again, he shows up in the stat column, nothing like crazy significant for him, but I was talking to somebody about like, hey, if he was, I don't care if his shoulder's broken in half, dude, get out there because they at least have to account for you. You don't even have to contact anybody. Just run in motion, run around, do whatever, because on the off chance they decide to throw that ball to you, it's going to be the moment that I lapse in coverage and ignore you. Like, you are the ultimate decoy in an NFL game because you have to account for him so many different ways. And that was just evident. Like, he's another person you have to count for in the running game, right? He's another, obviously, in the receiving game. When he catches the ball, then what are we going to do? Is he going to change the game with the physicality and the tone that he sets? So I just thought it was obvious the impact that he has just being back in the lineup. So for those two, I thought they both did exactly what they needed to do when they needed to do it and were significant contributors to the win as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was a huge play at a huge time for Brandon Ayuk. It kind of reminded me of George Kittle's catch against the Cowboys in the playoffs when it bounced off of his hands, his face mask, and then back to his hands. Just having that concentration to get that done. I mean, that takes a special player, and especially in a moment like that, in the playoffs where you need a play. I mean, that's pretty hard to come by. We saw the Lions drop a number of passes on third down, fourth down, just an example of guys on that end who weren't able to get it done. Here you have a pass that, was thrown to the defender pretty much a little more accurately than you, and you still come away with it. I mean, I just, you don't give up on a play. That's what Brandon Ayuk showed there. And Deebo Samuel, I mean, I think he was big in this one, like he's always big. I think he was a little more than a decoy in this game. 8 catches, 89 yards. It was good to see that he wasn't limited at all. He was getting hits. He was looking for contact like he always does. I mean, he told us before the game, he wasn't going to protect anything, right? So he definitely did it, and he was full go. And I'll just say this. We've mentioned a few guys, right? Christian McCaffrey, Brock Purdy, Deebo Samuel. Those are 3 guys that I want touching the football when the 49ers are down or it's just not looking right. Because those 3 guys, if you put the ball in their hands, something good will happen. Every time. And if not every time, like, they will make it happen. Just keep trying because those guys can make a play when it counts. There were a few plays that I thought in a particular drive that Deebo, really helped them get down the field. So yeah, that's a good one to give some flowers to. But yeah, I mean, that's it for the flowers. Aside from that, I mean, we had really strong performances from guys, and a lot of guys we could probably put on notice, but we'd probably, not be here all night, but
hey, we're going to the Super Bowl.
We'll keep
Everybody
it
gets
short.
a pass.
I'll keep it short just because these guys I've put on notice before. hell, I probably had him on notice last week. If I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Look, okay, one guy, Jake Moody, all right. He had the miss early in the game. I mean, at that point, the 49ers took the first punch in the game already from the Lions, and then for that to happen, it wasn't right. It was not right. He did, make his kicks after that, the extra point, the other field goal, but I don't feel confident. I really was trying to give Moody the benefit of the doubt as long as I could, and I'm past that. I don't trust him.
Yeah. I mean, I don't
Same.
either. Like, yeah. Samesies. Like, I don't know what else to say to that. Or add to that. Yeah, it's a concern. So here's that. Just go score touchdowns. Just go score touchdowns, and we won't have to worry about it that often. That's the resolution to that problem, because now it's committed. You're not trying out kickers 2 weeks before the Super Bowl, right? Like,
No.
this is the bed that we have made. It is now time to sleep in it, and you just hope that it's not littered with bed bugs at the most inopportune time. I don't have a better analogy for it than that, but yeah, it's troublesome. What makes it more troublesome, and this is not a knock on Jake Moody, he just always has this look on his face, like he's always like disappointed and sad and pouting, right? Like there's
Yeah.
no like
That's him. That's just his face.
but there's no like nothing that conveys any confidence like back to me, right? Like, and I appreciate that he's got a consistent demeanor, whether he's making it or missing it, but he always looks like he's missed it. And I'm just like, dude, like a little excitement. I just think he's tense. I just think they're tense, and it's causing us to be tense. And yeah, I'm nervous. It does make me nervous for the biggest game of the year.
Yeah, I mean, it's very possible that the Super Bowl could come down to a field goal. I mean, two really good teams going at it, right?
Please
So we just hope it doesn't come to that. But did you have anyone you wanted to put on notice?
Chase Young. I mean, I could go up and down the defensive line. I think I just still need more impact, more effort. You know what I mean? Like, you were brought here, dude. Like, you should be thrilled that you came out of the gate nice, saying all the right things. And then I just, you watch the game back, you see some highlights, you do some things. You're like, why is he walking like right now? Why is he just waving an arm at a tackle? Like, he's one of the biggest men on this field.
He is huge.
Yeah, like this opportunity, because if you're not brought back, may never come to you ever again to play in a Super Bowl. And you have that opportunity. Which one? The Moody face? I don't even know if that's a face.
Hope someone got a screen grab of that.
I'm done. No, but I just it's just not enough urgency. There's not enough excitement coming from that. And I think it's just evident. I mean, I think this is part of the contribution as to like why we're getting scorched in the run game. You know what I mean? Like, just play with a little more. I am commenting after the fact of the game. I am not one of these players, so I don't ever want to discredit like what their passion is and whatnot. I'm just saying, like, play with a little pride.
I think that's what you said is important. Play with pride. It just looks like a straight up lack of effort.
Yeah.
and it's like, dude, first of all, you just got traded to one of the best teams in football. If that doesn't lift up something, burn a fire in you in itself, okay, I guess. Now you're in the playoffs. If that doesn't, lift you to have you step up, I don't know. You're also playing okay, if those things aren't your jam, team sports, that's not really your thing. You're also playing for your own contract after this. You're a free agent after this season ends. If any or none of those things can't get you to step your game up, I don't know what to tell you. I did see some nice plays in the second half, but I need to see more consistency from Chase Young. And enough with the low effort plays. I mean, it's embarrassing, man.
Yeah.
It is embarrassing. So, yeah, I hope he could, play a good game for the Super Bowl at this point. Like, that's all we ask for.
Another one though, like he's got to play, right? Like they love the depth, they love the rotation. It's just pride. That's all it is. Just take pride, even if it's self-inflated ego. Just go do it. Just go do it.
Yeah, I mean, Weston, we were having such a great time that I forgot to have everyone vote.
I thought we voted before we started it.
This is true. This is true. We kind of like already made the decision.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, you're not voting today because
Yeah.
me and Weston already chose. But yeah, just really quickly, if you guys have any vote for 49K Player of the Week, I'm about to put the nominees up on the board. We've got Brock Purdy, we got Christian McCaffrey, and we've got Nick Bosa. Short list today, but it's because these guys, stepped up in the comeback win. So yeah, Sean, I think Purdy was unanimous. Yeah, probably. So officially, unofficially, 49K Player of the Week. It's Brock. Yes.
Yeah.
Glad we could get that sorted out, guys. This was efficient.
This is efficient. Guys, we
There
already
we
knew what
go.
you were going to
Okay.
do. Don't worry.
Thank you, guys. Thanks. All right. Well, I mean, we have a lot of great content coming this week, and I am so stoked for it. I mean, next 2 weeks, all right, we've got Super Bowl content. Keep it locked here on the channel. There's going to keep the regular schedule going. Might throw in some bonus episodes, because it's special time of the year. So be on the lookout for that. To know when I always go live, make sure you hit that notification bell. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like this video if you haven't yet. And oh, by the way, I am here in Mobile, Alabama. If you were wondering, this is not my apartment. My apartment does not look like a hotel room. This is a hotel room in Mobile, Alabama. I am at the Senior Bowl. And so I know the 49ers season has not ended, but draft season is inching towards us. So I will be here looking at some of the prospects who are going to be out here. So yeah, follow for that content as well if that interests you. But for now, from me, from Weston, have a good rest of your Monday night, folks. Peace.